When Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor ended their second attempt at love, he mailed her a single handwritten letter, a letter she refused to open for decades. Only after his death, when the world believed their story was over, did Elizabeth finally read it. And in that moment, she broke down, because inside was the truth Richard Burton never said aloud. This is the story of the message that changed everything. Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor were Hollywood's most explosive romance. Two of the world's greatest actors, two impossible personalities, and a love powerful enough to burn through two marriages and two divorces. On the set of Cleopatra, their chemistry was undeniable. Their fights were legendary. And their passion drew the world in like a storm. But behind the glamour was a relationship constantly pulled between desire and destruction. When they loved each other, it was overwhelming. When they hurt each other, it was unforgettable. And yet, even after everything, they could never fully let go. Their second marriage was supposed to fix everything. It didn't. The drinking, the arguments, the pressure of fame, they crushed the fragile piece they tried to rebuild. Friends say the second breakup was worse than the first, because this time, Richard truly knew, that Elizabeth would walk away for good. In the quiet after the storm, Burton sat alone and wrote her a letter. Not a love letter, not an apology, something else. Something he had never said to her face. He mailed it to her private home. Elizabeth received it, she held it, but she couldn't bring herself to read it. She kept that envelope sealed for years. Elizabeth Taylor later admitted she was afraid. Afraid that whatever Richard had written would pull her right back into the past she was trying to escape. She said, quote, "If I read it, I would have rushed to him." The letter stayed in her drawer, untouched, even as Richard remarried, even as he moved on, even as life pulled them in different directions. She told friends she didn't want to know his final words to her because she wasn't sure she could survive them. But fate had other plans. After Richard Burton died suddenly in 1984, Elizabeth Taylor was devastated. People thought they had both moved on, but Elizabeth's reaction told a different story. Not long after his death, she went home, opened her drawer, and finally broke the seal on Richard's last letter. What she read shattered her. It wasn't anger, it wasn't blame, it wasn't bitterness, it was love. In the final lines, Burton wrote that she would always be, quote, "My Elizabeth," that no matter where life took them, she was the great love of his life. She cried for hours. Because after all the chaos, he had finally said the one truth she had always needed to hear. And she had waited too long to hear it. Elizabeth Taylor admitted years later that opening that letter was one of the most painful moments of her life. She said, "I will love Richard to my dying day. I think he loved me too. But we were never meant to live together, only to love." In the end, that letter wasn't just a goodbye, it was the closure they never found in life. And decades too late, she finally understood the truth that Richard Burton had carried with him until the end. He never stopped loving her. Some love stories don't end when the people do. They end when the last word is finally revealed.